You know that phrase, the end of the world? It brings up all these images of chaos, right? Disaster flicks, doomsday clocks, all of it. But what if it meant something totally different? Something way more personal? Maybe even freeing? Today, we're going to dive into a spiritual perspective that completely flips this whole concept on its head.
So our guide for this whole thing is the spiritual teacher Paramahansa Yogananda. Now get this, it's 1940. The world is literally in the middle of a massive war. And in the midst of all that chaos, he gives this lecture. But he wasn't just talking about the war. No, he was looking at the much bigger picture, the machinery of the cosmos, human consciousness, and the planet itself. Okay, so first things first. We have to kind of push aside all those typical, scary, fear-based predictions we're all so used to hearing. Yogananda's take on the end is a whole different ballgame. It's way beyond just a simple countdown to catastrophe.
And he was really firm on this point. A true spiritual guide never ever uses fear as a tool. The whole point is to bring understanding, not to create panic. And that focus on wisdom, well, it's a world away from a lot of the doomsday prophets out there.
Yogananda actually told this story that just perfectly captures the foolishness of it all. He talked about this sect up in New York. They were completely convinced the world was ending, so they gave away everything they owned, hiked up a mountaintop, and just waited for the final show. They waited and they waited until, they got hungry and had to come back down and then awkwardly sue to try and get all their stuff back. It's such a great cautionary tale about the dangers of taking things too literal. So what's the first part of Yogananda's explanation? Well, it actually starts with something really concrete, the direct impact that our collective actions have on the planet itself. He had a term for this, partial dissolution. The idea here is that we don't just live on the Earth, we're actively shaping its reality. We have the power to create and the power to destroy. And when our collective actions get overwhelmingly negative, the planet itself can react with, violent upheavals. So this creates a direct link between what's in our heads and hearts and what happens to the physical planet. Yogananda taught that all our thoughts, actions, and emotions are basically recorded as vibrations in the ether. So things like mass hatred, anger, and fear, they generate this kind of cosmic static that messes with the Earth's natural, harmonious magnetic forces. He used this amazing analogy. Think about your own body. If you live an unhealthy lifestyle for a long time, you start to create poisons and diseases inside yourself, right? Well, in the exact same way, the Earth develops its own illnesses. Things like earthquakes, floods, major disasters, when it gets bogged down with the heavy, negative karma of all of humanity. It's not a punishment, it's just cause and effect. And remember, he was saying this in 1940. He pointed right at World War II and called it a perfect example of this partial dissolution, this karmic fever in action. But, and this is so important, he also offered a huge message of hope. He believed that, ultimately, the good karma of humanity is greater than the evil karma. And that is why our world continues to survive, instead of just shattering from all our negativity. Okay, so beyond our planet's immediate karma, Yogananda's teaching zooms way out to this truly epic scale. We're talking about the vast cosmic cycles that control the rise and fall of human consciousness over thousands of years. He talked about this grand 24,000-year cycle, which is made up of 4 different ages, or yugas. You can think of it like a giant cosmic clock. There's a 12,000-year upward swing, where humanity is moving toward enlightenment, and then a 12,000-year downward swing, back into materialism. And according to his teachings, we've just recently crawled out of the darkest age, the Kali Yuga, and we're now in the early days of the ascending Dwapara Yuga, which he called the electrical age. Now, check out some of the predictions he made for our current age way back in the 1940s. It's kind of wild. He foresaw huge developments in aviation, even saying that air travel would make cars look like carts. He talked about healing with rays and vibratory energy, but he also gave this really sharp warning that science in this age would be a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, used for amazing human comfort, but also for absolutely terrifying mass destruction. I mean, pretty spot on for 80 years ago, huh? So after our current electrical age, the roadmap says humanity is headed for the Treta Yuga, a mental age where mind power really takes over. And then, finally, comes the Satya Yuga, the age of truth, where humanity lives in total communion with the divine. It's basically a blueprint for our collective spiritual evolution. But now we get to the most profound part. This is really the heart of it all.
After we've looked at the planet and the cosmos, Yogananda brings everything right back home, to the apocalypse that happens inside every single one of us.
This right here is the key. The real end of the world isn't some event out there that you have to wait for. It's an internal shift in your own consciousness that you can actually achieve right now. It's about completely changing your relationship to the world around you.
So step 1 is detachment. And Yogananda uses this brilliant analogy. Life is like a movie. When you're at the theater, you can get wrapped up in the drama, the comedy, the tragedy, but deep down, you know it's not real. You don't leave the theater permanently scarred by it. He taught that we have to learn to see our own lives this way, to play our parts with everything we've got, but to remain inwardly untouched by the final outcome. The next step is what he called desirelessness. Now, that sounds kind of empty, but it's not. He says it's actually a most marvelous state of consciousness. Think about it. When you stop needing things from the world to make you happy, you can't be hurt by disappointment anymore. You become what he called a king within yourself, totally free and joyful no matter what's happening on the outside. And all of this leads to the final state, samadhi, or divine ecstasy. This is the ultimate goal. It's where you're fully living in the world, doing your job, living your life, but you are never, not for a single moment, unconscious of the divine reality that's behind it all. This, he says, is the true end of the world, the end of the dream, the end of the grand illusion.
And here's the most empowering piece of this entire teaching. You don't have to wait for some distant cosmic age to roll around. You don't have to wait for some big cataclysmic event. This freedom, this personal end of the world, is available to anybody in any age who's willing to do the inner work.
So really, the path to this internal apocalypse is pretty clear. See the world for the temporary dream that it is. Work to free yourself from attachment and desire. Cultivate what Yogananda called a portable heaven of joy inside of you. The goal is to end your own dream, to wake yourself up, and you can start right now.
So in the end, Yogananda's message takes this terrifying idea, the end of the world, and transforms it into a deeply personal invitation. It's not about when the world will end. It's about when you will choose to end its power over you. So the final question really isn't for some prophet or scientist to answer. It's for you. How will you end your world?